Okay, we are going to try this again. That's one of the things about utilizing technology. You never know what's going to happen. And very ironic that here I am talking about stress tonight and come up with a couple of stressful situations, but it is what it is. So just to kind of recap, I was talking about, my first time ever skiing in New Zealand and kind of going through the mental dress rehearsal, the negative mental dress rehearsal of me falling down the hill, getting laughed at, making a fool of myself. And again, physical things have always come relatively easy for me. So this was something that I just wasn't really used to. And it to this day, I never, ever forget that story of how I felt in that situation when I'm dealing with a new client that might not be very athletic, that might not move very well, that might not be that coordinated. I think of me on that mountain struggling to feel comfortable. And by a tremendous blessing, I had a great ski instructor. He was not only a very skilled instructor, he was a fun instructor. He was a very positive instructor. He just really made everyone feel like they could do it. And it was fun to see the other people in my group, just lots of laughter, lots of smiles. You could see how they were building their confidence. And we all walked away, or skied away, I should say, feeling really good about ourselves because we had this great experience. But here's the one thing is we put together all these negative pictures or play all these negative scenarios in our head sometimes before we even try. And I think about all the people who maybe don't necessarily have a good body image and they never ever enter into a gym or they never go to a health center because they don't feel good about themselves. They don't feel like they want to be compared. They don't feel like they want to be judged. And I just think about myself. What if I, would have said, you know what, I just don't think I'm going to do this after my buddies were harassing me as I was going up the hill. I would have never had that joy, that excitement, that fun. And that's why we have to put ourselves out there in life. And I think for me, that's just something I'm never going to forget. And it served me really well when I'm dealing with clients, but it's also served me well just putting myself out there sometimes and knowing that the pictures that I paint in my head sometimes are much worse. And a lot of times I can even go into a situation and as positive as I am and as positive as I try and be, sometimes, I still have that head trash that I'm dealing with and not feeling like I'm enough, not feeling like I can be as good as I feel I should be. And so I think it's important for us all to understand that we're all just scared little kids really on the inside, just trying to make our way. And we all belong, we all fit, we've all got, as one of my coaches would say, our superpowers. And there are certain things that, we're going to be challenged with. It's kind of funny because one of the things is I would not consider myself very tech savvy, but I'm having to try and figure things out. And, of course, now tonight had some technical difficulties, but that's life. I mean, sometimes we are just going to have to overcome obstacles. And sometimes we have to really think out our strategies, how we're going to overcome those obstacles. And sometimes we just have to think fast on our feet. So there's two ways to have the highest building in town. You can either build yours up to be the highest in town, or you can tear everybody else's down. And that's why I think it's important to make sure that you are part of the solution and not part of the problem. And if someone has a goal, someone has an ambition, someone has a dream, why not be the first to really support that and do that in a way that's authentic and very supportive, and just make sure you do what you can to lift others up. And I think, for me, part of my journey is trying to live a life of being more authentic. And my wife tells me all the time, most people are going to find this hard to believe, but that I'm too serious. And, for me, when I got into the health and fitness space, I wanted to be a health and fitness professional. And when you listen to that health and fitness professional, I thought I had to be serious. And when you're dealing with health, sometimes there's some very serious topics. And so, there was times that my wife's like, you're too stiff, you're too serious, you're too technical. And so she's like, you just got to loosen up. And, I can't loosen up, this is serious stuff. But that's one of the things she's always tried to get me out of that shell. And the funny thing about it is, when I've done some, a number of holistic healing modalities, and when I went through my energy healing certification, I started to work with much more alternative people in the healing space, and started to study shamanic healing. And if you don't know what a shamanic healer is, if you look at any cultural in history, everybody had shamanic healers. Everybody had the medicine man, the medicine woman. It goes back thousands and thousands of years. And I recently met with a very amazing shamanic healer. And it's funny when I even think about this, is she told me, and my wife was just loving on this when she was talking, she said, your inner child has been stifled. Your inner child is sitting on the sidelines with his little arms folded and wants you to have more fun. And, that's why, for me, I like bringing out my Groovy Gary and my Dr. Lloyd Dillwangle and some of my other characters, because, inside, it's that inner child that just wants to have some fun. And, there's probably not a lot of people that know this, but I was in the theater when I was in college, and believe it or not, I actually got a theater scholarship, and I was in 2 comedies, hard to believe. And so for me, I was passionate about it. I had so much fun, and it was probably some of the most fun I ever had in my life. And college was over, and then I didn't have that outlet. And so for me, I think there was always a void. And so I didn't have that part of my authentic self, and I wasn't really putting forth that part of me. And again, sometimes, especially in the space that I'm in, health and fitness professional and being a business owner, I just always had to have the serious hat on. So I thought. And, the crazy thing about it is, as crazy as I can be and as goofy as I can be, the amazing thing about it is my wife supports me on it, which is really cool. So what I really want to do in the process of, educating is, there's times that, people like to be entertained. And so, I kind of talk about being edutained. So you're entertaining and educating. So hopefully you guys can have some laughs as we go through some of this serious technical information. But we all, I think, sometimes need to maybe put ourselves out there, not be afraid to laugh at yourself, not be afraid to laugh, period. And, sometimes we just have to put ourselves out there a little bit more than is, sometimes we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I look back at, my journey of being uncomfortable. I mean, many times I'm somewhat of a, I guess, rebel. I'm unemployable. That's why I've been self-employed all these years, because I am an independent thinker. I take risks, and I do things differently many times. And this goes back to 1996. I was doing circuit training, functional circuit training classes are now what is known as boot camps back in 96. And this is how far back I go. I actually met with a DJ and mixed audio tapes of music. And then I was in a microphone saying, that's time, or switch stations. So I didn't have to look at my watch. And so I could instruct better. And so that's way back in 96. And I was using stability balls, and people are like, what are these big exercise balls? And then I got into foam rollers, and people are like, what is he doing making us lie on these foam rollers? So I was doing that back in the early 2000s, and very few people were using foam rollers. In fact, I was one of the first people demonstrating a foam roll on YouTube that now has 100,000 plus views. So, I was putting myself out there, and people were looking at me like I was crazy. And then in 2003, I started working with this big, it was like a cannonball with a handle called the kettlebell. So in 2003, I was only one of about 100 people that were certified in Russian kettlebells. And everyone said, now what is he into? And now kettlebells have exploded. So sometimes, again, you just have to put yourself out there, and whatever you're doing in life, sometimes you have to just make sure you're not worried about what other people are thinking, because it can really stifle your own growth. And I think it's important for us to continue to grow as individuals and feel like we're being fulfilled, feel like we're traveling down our own authentic road. So it's important that I think we all work to build each other up. Again, if you've got a friend or a family member that is doing something or pursuing something that might seem maybe a little off or different to you, if they're passionate about it, then, try and do your best to support them. And I think that's how we all grow and get better. So tomorrow, I'm going to be digging in a little bit deeper on the stressors. And we're going to talk about all the things that empty our buckets. And then we are going to get into all the things that fill our buckets. And so if we think of our bodies like a physiological bucket, again, certain things that empty it, certain things that fill it. So stay tuned tomorrow as I go through all these stressors, the things that induce stress in our bodies, and what we can do to overcome them. Hopefully you got some value from tonight's video. I'm sorry that we had the technical glitches, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. But hopefully tomorrow we don't have any challenges, and we can actually have a great video. I can provide lots of good information for you tonight. If you felt like you got some value from the videos, if you could like them, if there's someone that you think could benefit from the information, please go ahead and share them. Until I see you tomorrow, go out and make it a great day. You certainly deserve it. Be well, and we'll see you tomorrow.